Hello everybody and welcome to the inaugural episode of Puck Around and Find Out. I'm your host, LeafsLexi. I will be sharing all of the latest hockey news on a weekly basis with you, with an emphasis on the Leafs of course. And today we have a really big episode planned, so without further ado, we're talking the Leafs season, we're talking that dreaded Vegas game, we're talking blockbuster trades in the Atlantic Division, we're talking about all the potential trade options for the Leafs as we are coming up on the trade deadline at 3 p.m. All right, let's start with the positive. The Leafs have had a phenomenal season. Up until yesterday, they were quite literally at the top of the Atlantic and sharing a similar record to Florida, who are the reigning Cup champions. But that does not tell the whole story of the season. We've had a couple of awesome goaltenders. Wall's been a little shaky for the past couple games. Let's forget about that for a second. But we have a really good tandem in net. We have a defensive team that's been shored up considerably with additions like OEL and Tanev, but that still struggles. That third pairing seems to never be able to get their way, and Timmins simply does not have the ability to control the puck in that pair, and Benoit has just been so off all season that you can't justify that either. So that brings us to the forward group that, can score like nobody's business until it's the playoffs. And there have been no considerable changes to that group from last year to this year. So where do we go from here? We need a third line center. Let's be real here for a second. Max Domi is just not going to cut it at this point. We need defensive depth. We're down Tanev and the whole team falls apart. We're down Tanev and Jake McCabe is all by himself fending off all of Vegas on that first goal last night. Unacceptable. You need to take a breather. You need to remember this is a podcast. I don't coach the team. I am not the GM. But if we're being realistic, this team has serious gaps, both in the top six and in the overall defensive depth of the team. So where do we go? Over the last 24 hours, Florida, Tampa, and many other teams have announced blockbuster trades in order to shore up their defense, in order to address issues that they are facing. What is Brad doing? So Yanni Gourde is now back with Tampa and off of the list of potential trades for the Leafs. There's been so much discussion around bringing in a profile just like his. And now we're left with what? And that doesn't even address the need for a 3C. And who is on the market right now, realistically, that would be an option for that? There's Ryan O'Reilly, doesn't want to come back. And realistically, would we want him back? There's Braden Shen, who is not coming over. I hate to break it to the folks that are on the channel right now hoping for a Braden Shen trade. It's just not going to happen. And then you have the Mikko Rantanen question, which, I'm sure Carolina expected more from him coming over, but it's so early. Are they going to trade him at the deadline at all? Is it real that Toronto, Dallas, and LA are the three teams that are involved? If Mikko Rantanen is a Leaf tomorrow at 3 p.m., I will be a happy camper with that decision. But I'll be hella confused as to how we made that happen until I see the details. As of right now, all we have done is send Revo to Waiverland. And that simply does not give us enough cap space to mess with. But what's in the back of my head is that Brad is a genius. He knows what he's doing. Realistically, he knows what he is doing. I think that more players are going to get waived, but they're waiting for the last moment. So my prediction here is that tomorrow between 2 and 3 p.m., we're going to hear of a blockbuster situation with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And who knows, maybe Mikko Rantanen will be in blue and white by the weekend. So let's talk about that Vegas game quickly, because that was a source of pain and misery for me. Let's start with the fact that it was the latest start of the season. It's a 10 p.m. game, and somehow they can't even get them onto the ice by 10:40. Crazy. The first shot I see on the ice is two gladiators facing off, and then 5 seconds later, we have two gladiators facing off in Matthew Nyes and White Cloud. That game, the way it started, the way it began, I thought there would be a lot more energy from the Leafs. Let's be real. But the second that first period started, yes, they were dominating play. Yes, they had the puck more, but they were tired. You could tell that they're a jet-lagged team playing at a time that they're not accustomed to. And those are just not excuses for a professional sports team. Come on. With all that aside, you have Wall in net. And the guy is clearly shaky. That second goal goes in, and I think all of Leafs Nation collectively went, Yeah, I want that one back. Okay. Then the third goal goes in. And then you see something you've never seen over the course of Wall's entire career. And he gets pulled. I could talk about this from a few different perspectives, but I think it was really unfair to start Joe Wall in a game against Vegas, one of the strongest teams in the NHL right now, second in their division, when he is not 100%. You are setting him up to fail. You are knocking his confidence in the stretch leading up to the playoffs. So whoever made that decision, not very pleased. So Stoli comes in, tries to rescue the day, does his best, doesn't have the greatest game of his life either. We get some fireworks in the third. We get a couple of goals from Matthews, who was pretty psyched about his goal, from Marner. That almost goal from Marner was actually the highlight of the game for every Leafs fan. Other than maybe the Nyes White Cloud fight, because that was really interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I did not know that Nyes was going to come out with a plan like that and make things happen. They actually cut to a shot of Ryan Reeves teaching Myers and a few others on the team to fight from practice a few days prior. So interesting that, Ryan's teaching the other members of the team how to fight, and now he finds himself on waivers after Matthew Nyes and Oliver Ekman-Larsson both took down some opponents in the game last night. But I digress. The Leafs, given what we saw last night, are just not in a position for a deep cup run unless we do something on the defensive front so that losing Tanev or McCabe isn't fatal. And we need someone to play 3C, because realistically, let's say Mikko does come to Toronto. Who's centering his line? We putting him on a line with Max Domi? We putting him on a line with Pontus Holmberg? Or better yet, David Kampf? It's just not going to work. So Brad, ultimately, we're all looking at you to make this happen. Do what needs to be done. You have not a lot of time left. We just need you to get the job done. So with that, I will say goodbye until tomorrow, because we're going to have a lot more to talk about come 3 p.m. Eastern time. Whether Brad makes some serious moves or not. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. That's all for today. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. See you tomorrow.